Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, the older Hatman.
Yes, Hatman had a birthday,
I did.
which is why we're recording this the exact same day I plan on uploading it to YouTube.
Yeah.
And some people have actually noticed that I have worn sleeves a lot more this week, because I've done a few stream appearances and stuff like that. It's cold as fuck in Illinois. That's why.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's currently, what is the damn temperature here? It is 41 degrees here and expected to get to 34 later
Yeah,
tonight.
it's like 30 something. It's going to get to like 10 tonight. So,
Yep, that's much colder than here.
yeah, so I've
So,
been wearing my sweater, and I don't really take it off because, well, I'm bare chested underneath. So, yeah, not really the sort of thing that I want to torture people with my pasty white skin. So, alright. Well, aside from all that fun stuff, where should we start, partner? Politics or entertainment?
well, I think I do have a coin in my coat. Probably one of those British coins that. Did I ever tell the story about how I got this coat?
No.
Technically, I stole it from my girlfriend's dad,
Oh.
or ex-girlfriend's dad,
Hmm.
actually. She gave it to me to wear out once, and I just never gave it back. And
Eh.
she said it was her dad's coat, and it came with British money in it,
Oh.
uh, 10 pence specifically. So this will be flipped. So what? Heads, politics, tails, entertainment, like
Yep.
usual.
Exactly.
Tails, entertainment.
Alright.
Let's roll on it.
Starting with the fun stuff. I can dig
Good
that.
stuff first.
Okay. So, entertainment. We got a lot of these, too. Altus Whisperer wants to know thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan being sued for plagiarizing a movie, accused of rewriting the film in a male gaze.
Okay, that last part's funny. This is the first I've heard about plagiarism.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that either.
Let me see this. Accused of plagiarism for copying a 2013 film. Which one was? Which movie was the copycat? Servant. I've never heard of that movie.
Me neither.
Oh, never mind, because it's a TV series being developed for Apple TV Plus. Huh. Fuck it.
I don't know.
I mean, people get sued for plagiarism and shit all the time, and it rarely goes anywhere.
Yeah, because you have to.
So,
Plagiarism is not easy to prove whenever it comes to an art and an art form. You have to prove that it's like directly ripped off of something, and on top of that, that the person had knowledge of that particular thing existing. Because there's, I mean, even me, I've considered renaming Project Lazarus to something else because there's two video games that have either a Lazarus Project or a Project Lazarus in them that I didn't know until after I came up with the name. Because Project Lazarus started as a concept in 2015 was when I came up with the name. Well, later on I realized that Mass Effect 2 has the Lazarus Project, which is the project that Cerberus uses to resurrect Commander Shepard. And then in Doom, there is a Project Lazarus, but it's not. The name doesn't really. I think that they just picked the name just to have a biblical reference, because it's not really about like bringing anything back to life. It's the merging of demons with technology that Olivia Pierce was doing in that game. So it's not quite the same. And then in Project Lazarus, it literally is about bringing the dead back to life. So it's an interesting thing, but there's similarities between the three, but I wasn't really thinking about Doom when I was thinking about how the project would work. I was thinking more along the lines of Project Rebirth and RoboCop. So, which, as some people have noticed when they've read the script, that's what their brains immediately go to. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's not easy to really prove that somebody has actually plagiarized something. It has to be almost a direct copy. So needless to say, that's going to be a tough one to prove, to see if that even is the fact. Because some things... I've even seen accusations of plagiarism because there's references to something else that inspired it, and there are similarities between 1 and 2. Well, that's going to happen quite a bit, you know. So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. And not to mention, if you boil anything down to its base elements, everything is a ripoff. That's something that's like Criticism 101. You know, the rule of being a critic and to be consistent is very simple. Nihil sub sole novum means there's nothing new under the sun. You know, if you boil everything down to its base elements, everything will seem like a ripoff of everything else. And as such, you deprive the artist of their creative freedoms, you know, and that is, it makes you a hack, basically. All right, next question. V-Raptor wants to know, when will we get Mohammed Man? So, here's the problem with Mohammed Man. The time to strike the iron on that, I think, is a year past. Because the Mohammed Man was going to be a response to, what was it? What was the book called? I think it was like Second Coming or something like that. It was basically mocking Jesus. Right. And the thing is that the book... First off, it got kicked off of Vertigo, and got picked up by somebody else. I think it was Devil's Due, and nobody bought it. So Richard Pace, who is a prick, lost a ton of money on it and is fading into irrelevance in the comic book industry. The last I checked. So Mohammed Man doesn't have the same sting that it would had I done it a year ago. You know, had I done it a year ago, it probably would have had a lot more impact. So, it's something on the back burner. You know, it's something that I might do someday. And what I would probably end up doing is making, basically a Superman story starring Muhammad. Because the fact that we're doing Muhammad is what would make it controversial. The thing is, I don't know who would sell it. I don't think Indiegogo would actually let it go through. And I don't think that, obviously, Kickstarter wouldn't. You know, and I would have to self-publish it on Amazon, meaning I would have to foot the bill to make a 22-page comic and then sell it there and probably not make my money back. So it might not even be worth it. But yeah, so it's probably not going to happen at this point. So yeah. John Whitesell wants to know, thoughts on the series if the Emperor had a TTS? If the Emperor had text-to-speech?
Yes. Are you not aware of this?
No.
Oh, God. It's hilarious. There's one scene in particular that is like the most famous part of it. It's the everyone killing each other over heresy. It's like one guy finds a porno mag and then Commissar goes through and is like, "You heretic," and kills him. And then
yeah, I've seen something similar to that where
yes, it's the funniest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
They're all just killing each other down there. Better lay the exterminatus on them. Okay, fire.
That's awesome.
It's funny.
I'll have to look it up.
Funny.
Because, yeah, the closest thing that I've seen to that is one where it's Warhammer 40K, obviously, where somebody picks up an anime, and then they all start killing each other because it's heresy. So I'm like, all right.
That's basically it. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. There's also another one.
It's meant to look like a porno mag. But...
Yeah. Completely unrelated. But somebody edited in the scene in For Honor where in the campaign the Vikings get their hands on a bunch of samurai supplies. And they're sorting through them and they have no clue what it is. And they're like, what is this junk? Well, somebody edited it in to be Naruto books. And it's hilarious because they're like, what is this crap?
Oh my god.
So, all right. The Swordsman 100 wants to know, for both, with the SMUC becoming the part of the MCU as part of the New Deal, if Morbius is any indication, besides Spider-Man, who would you want Venom and Morbius to interact with? Okay, so here's something that people kind of forgot with the deal. So the characters that appear in the Spider-Man MCU films that are Spider-Man characters are owned by Sony. So all of the villains and Spider-Man himself, he's basically on loan to the MCU in a sense, or it's like a co-partnership, meaning that Tom Holland as Spider-Man can appear in a Venom film, in a Morbius film, in whatever, and vice versa. But it doesn't mean that MCU characters are going to appear in those films. So like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, stuff like that, not going to happen. So, yeah. But the answer is Blade. Blade Morbius. Like that just kind of goes together. But what I want is Maximum Carnage at this point, if you're going to bring in Morbius. Because they're doing Morbius, they're doing Black Cat, they've done Venom already. You obviously can't have Captain America back, which kind of sucks. But you could do Bucky, you know. But yeah, you could. I would love to see. I would love to see that, a Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage film. At this point, you would have to rewrite the ending because the ending is fucking stupid. But I'm sorry, the Good Vibes gun with Iron Fist is just the dumbest thing. It's so stupid. Speaking of which, did we even talk about the Morbius trailer yet?
No, I don't think we did.
Well, let's talk about it for a second. What did you think of it?
All right. It's really different. It almost does sort of remind me of Blade in a way. And then they threw fucking Michael Keaton in there at the end.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, is Sony really gonna try and do their fucking Sinister Six thing again? Like, don't blow your load early, Sony.
I really think it would be interesting. I don't know if Morbius would be one of them though. He's never been a member of the Sinister Six.
I really hope he's not.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero. Yeah. And but even so, I think that it would be an interesting decision to make. But no, I think it's interesting.
Morbius used to be a straight villain.
Yeah, he started as a straight villain.
Yeah. I remember him in the old fucking Marvel team-up comics.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, the Human Torch versus Morbius, the Living Vampire.
Yeah.
I got that somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the rumor mill is also saying that they're going to introduce Otto Octavius in this.
Which would be interesting. Yeah.
It would be very interesting.
That's
I mean, this would definitely be the place to do it.
Yeah, and one thing, people have downed the idea of having an entire universe based around Spider-Man. I'm like, now hold on a minute. You have a problem with an entire film franchise based around characters in possibly the most unique rogues gallery, not Batman's. Mm-hmm. You're insane.
Yeah.
You
could do a Batman cinematic universe, for God's sake. And
yeah.
Like arguably, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, basically. And I think it's a good idea because Spider-Man has so many good characters around him, you know? And, you know, by the success of Venom, it's rather obvious people still love Spider-Man villains. I would love to see a Green Goblin movie in the style of Joker. of a one-person character study, you know? Starring Willem Dafoe, of course.
That'd be interesting.
I would like to
And
see it, especially after when I saw The Lighthouse recently, which
mm,
is a horror movie he did last year. He's brilliant in it. So yeah, that's my, I thought it was an interesting trailer.
yeah,
I think that the interesting thing about these Spider-Man universe movies is that they really feel sort of like early 2000s comic book movies, but taken seriously. Because the early 2000s and stuff like that, those movies, when you go back and look at them, they kind of feel like cash grabs in comparison to MCU stuff. Because the MCU does take itself seriously.
Fantastic Four absolutely does.
Yeah.
Um,
They're not
I don't
going
know
for
about-
camp here, and that's the thing
Yeah.
about it, is like there was this idea back in those days when it came to like the Spider-Man films and Fantastic Four and stuff like that, is that like superheroes still had to be campy. I don't think
Right.
they have to be campy. I think that's
Well, Spider-Man 2 was way, way less campy than the first.
But then compared to 3, which was way more.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was.
the I think that, but that was because a lot of the people who were making these were very attached to Silver Age, and I understand that because that's what you grew up with. But
Right.
people these days didn't grow up with the Silver Age; they grew up with '90s stuff.
Yeah.
They grew up with, or even all the stories that they were pulling from are mostly for the Quesada era.
Yeah.
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 And that was a really good time of storytelling. Even though Quesada was a fucking idiot, there were still a lot of good stories that got told during that time frame.
And I think that's part of the reason why Spider-Man 3 was sort of off tonally.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it was trying to do two different tones at once. You had the campy Silver Age of Sandman, and then you had your more fleshed out, well, not really fleshed out, but I guess I can say edgier, like 90s Venom, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like it felt like he was trying to do Venom in a Silver Age lens.
Almost, yeah.
You can't.
No, you really, really cannot, because Venom is way too mature. I mean, that's like, people often say the night Gwen Stacy died was like the end of the Silver Age, because that was just way, way too mature for what comics were doing at the time. But you go back and look at shit like Spider-Man No More, and that was pretty ahead of its time too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was decidedly a Silver Age story, but my God, like that was different.
Yeah.
And I think, and they of course adapted that for Spider-Man 2, and as a result, you got a more mature movie out of it, and a movie that people still argue to this day is one of the best comic book films ever made.
Yeah.
But no, you can't put Venom in a situation like that, because the entire idea of Venom is
he's a monster.
Way too serious. Yeah, he is.
He is literally a monster. And that's something that, like, some people tend to, I think that's part of the reason why people disliked him so much. Like, the old school fans didn't like him, is because he is literally a monster. He's fucking frightening. Yeah. He's something out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so different.
God.
And Carnage as well.
Yeah, not to say anything about Carnage.
Yeah,
Carnage is worse.
Mind Bomb, I think, is probably the best look into like how dark the 90s era of Spider-Man comics really was. But you also got some of Peter Parker's toughest moral challenges in that particular time, and questioning whether or not some of these people that he was interacting with, like especially Eddie Brock, can this person be redeemed? Can I forgive this man for all the things that he's done to me? Because Brock tormented Peter. He was fucking evil when he started. and then gradually realized his own moral code and how it really applied, and that his view of Peter was completely skewed by his own problems mentally. And now they're at a point where the two are allies with one another, which is crazy when you think about it. And by the way, one thing to mention is that in an attempt to try and match Venom's popularity, DC has tried to do the same thing with Harley Quinn, and it's fucking forced. They did not really... She's still a goof and fucking nuts. Venom's not the same character. He's evolved since then. You know, it's...
Well, in some ways, Harley Quinn has, too. Like, you look at, modern comics Harley Quinn, and she's pretty different from Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
I kind of wonder, though, if playing up the sex appeal kind of forced a change there.
I think that's a big part of it. But the whole thing about her is just, I think that they wanted to do something similar. I think that they rushed it in comparison to Venom. Venom had more time in the oven with that sort of a thing. But then again, the interesting thing about him is that he was able to evolve kind of low key because Dan Slott brought him back, and that's the one thing I'll still thank Dan Slott for. But the element of Eddie Brock that is basically that he had time to evolve into a different person over the course of a decade, behind the scenes, because he wasn't this big name, or he wasn't like a big player, but the instant he gets back the Venom symbiote, he's moving 75,000 to 100,000 copies per month. And I think that his return at issue, I think it sold probably the highest that Marvel has had for a non-number one issue in a long time. It sold like 300,000 copies, and had to go to a second printing, like forced to go to a second printing. It wasn't planned. That's crazy when you think about it. Like, that character and Spider-Man villains in general are still extremely popular. Let's face it, the next Spider-Man game that's on a Sony console, that needs to be a killer app, because it's going to have Venom in it. And the instant that they show Eddie Brock as Venom, and if they make him playable, that will sell consoles. Because people love Venom. He is such a great character. He's so versatile. You can do anything you want with him. You could do horror, you could do action, you could do humor, and so on and so forth. And the Venom movie is a perfect example of that. So yeah, I am I'm really looking forward to Morbius. I'm interested to see what they can do with it. It looked like another interesting and dark take on a great villain, So, and not to mention Jared Leto's much better casting as Morbius than he is as the Joker. So.
Oh yeah.
Because I still think Jared Leto's a very good actor. He's an Academy Award winner.
Yeah, but, it's just some actors are just not cut out for certain roles. I mean, think of Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker.
Yeah, exactly.
Reeves, I will argue that Keanu Reeves is a good actor. Mm-hmm. He's not just the stoner actor. He was not right for Jonathan Harker.
No, he really wasn't.
Plain simple. Topher Grace was not right for Eddie Brock.
No, definitely not. Thank God for Tom Hardy, man. I'm trying to think of, like, oddly enough, people have said that they want Keanu Reeves in the MCU. I'm like, as who?
I have no idea.
I don't either. But, yeah, I can't really think of a superhero I'd like to see him as. But anyway, oddly enough, the next Deadpool film, Deadpool 3, is going to be an MCU film. So that'll be interesting. Meaning that we're going to see Colossus, which will be also interesting. I like Deadpool Colossus a lot more than the X-Men movies. So, anyway, let's go ahead and move on. We've talked about that for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Alpha Incel wants to know, Opinion on Stephen King being canceled for daring to promote merit. The left eats their own again. Oh, the instant he tweeted that out, I'm like, oh, he's doomed. He's fucking doomed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't say, people should be judged on their own talents and their own efforts. It's always, well, some people don't get that because they're immediately dismissed because they shut the literal fuck up. Just fucking stop it. We all know that's bullshit. And of course, he's gonna fucking lose the woke crowd for that. Because that's heresy. Talk about 40K. That's fucking heresy. You're not allowed to disagree. Simply put, you are not allowed to disagree.
Yep. Kale Bach wants to know, what version of Berserk do you recommend? Well, there's only one manga, so yes, definitely read that. It still remains to this day my favorite manga of all time. Granted, I haven't read that many because there's a lot of them I start into them and I think they suck. So, there's really only, I think, there's only 2 or 3 manga writers I've ever really enjoyed. Like, the series is in general, is like, I really enjoyed Battle Angel Alita, I really enjoyed Berserk, obviously, and then Devilman is another one of my favorites. And I'm reading through Devilman Lady right now, and it's my second chance of it. I'm liking it a lot more than the first time I read through it. But that's like, Gonagai, is the man. So, anyway, as for the anime, don't watch the new one. It sucks.
Yeah.
Though the first season was better than the second. But even so, even the Blu-ray version is not that great. Like, they fixed a lot of the animation in the Blu-ray version, but that first season's still kind of rough. Not to mention, they condensed the Conviction arc into, like, 10 episodes, 12 episodes. That needs to be 24. Actually, no, they didn't condense that into it. They condensed the Hawk of the Millennium Empire into that many. And you can't do that. The Hawk of the Millennium Empire is a huge fucking arc. If you actually want to see those stories told decently, everything after the eclipse, play the Berserk Musu game. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. Yeah. And that's actually a pretty good Musu game. And it tells the story a lot better than the anime does, but that's because it had more of a budget. As for the Golden Age arc, if you don't have the time to sit down and watch a 25 episode anime, just watch the movies. They're on Netflix. And they're great. They're very, very well done. And they actually adhere a little closer to the manga than the series does. The series, on the other hand, is, I think it's one of the best anime I've ever seen. I understand that it's got some animation problems. There's a lot of times, instead of showing some of the action, they just show this still frame of, Guts doing something awesome, and then they just pan the image. I get that some people don't like that. It's whatever. It doesn't bother me at all. I still think that it's a very well done series. Not to mention, it's a 90s anime that has a voice acting dub that you would think is modern. It's really good. Like, you could tell the people who did it really loved the source material, and they really wanted to do it well. So, it's one of those things where, as somebody who's starting to dabble into voice acting, it's a really good idea to put yourself in a position where you take whatever material is set in front of you and you take it 100% seriously, because it comes through in the performance. Like, that's what I mentioned about G Gundam. Is like, G Gundam is fucking stupid, But the dub is fun as hell because the voice actors are giving you 100%. They're trying to entertain you as best they can. And that's what counts. And Berserk is no different in that sense. But Berserk obviously has a much more mature story. But I love that anime. I almost like it almost more than Evangelion. That's saying something. Because I love Evangelion. I'm still wanting to hunt down the original DVDs of it so I can get the original dub. Somebody actually wanted to gift that to me at one point. Did I mention that? Like, somebody wanted to send it to me. And I'm like...
Evangelion?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't have a P.O. box. So, like, someday, when I can afford a P.O. box, I will probably get one. But yeah.
Send it to the business, and I'll forward it to you.
Oh, well, there you go. We might actually do that instead then. Just have Hatman forward stuff to me. Yeah. So, we'll think about it. We'll talk about it behind the scenes. But anyway, so versions of Berserk that I recommend, or Berserk media that I would recommend, is definitely Berserk at the Band of the Hawk as the game. You can get it on PC, PS4, Xbox One. Then for the anime, I recommend the 1990 series more so than the movies, but the movies are good too. They have the same voice cast. Don't watch the modern anime though, the series. It's just not good. And then the English dub, they replaced all the voice actors, which fuck them for doing so. Seriously. And Hatman, you've seen the original. I don't know if you've ever read the manga, but you've seen the original series, right?
I haven't read the manga, but yeah, long time ago.
What do you think of it?
Beach episode, man.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that was shown to me to be kind of shocking in a way. Because I was shown Berserk around the same time I first saw Elfen Lied.
Yeah.
And it was just meant to be like a shock and awe thing. Gantz, though, I did not see.
Oh, Gantz is crazy. Gantz is schlocky,
did not see that. Did not see that at the time, but it was Berserk, Elfen Lied. There was something else, I think, but I don't remember it.
Can you describe
to be perfectly honest, it might have been fucking Boku no Pico at the fucking time. Knowing the guy that showed all this bullshit to me. Fuck you, dude. I'm not gonna name any names, but fuck you in case you ever find this. But yeah, Berserk. I enjoyed Berserk, and then the beach episode happened. You're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I'm not sure how to feel about this.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where I don't think that the things that happen in it have happened in other Japanese stories before.
Right.
But there's an emotional weight to it because every single character and this is not a spoiler, the Eclipse is infamous. If you don't want to hear it and you haven't seen Berserk or read it, put your earmuffs on. But the fact that these characters who are dying or having these terrible things happen to them, you've known them for so long, is what makes it horrifying. And that's part of part of the reason why I don't like horror, and I don't think it's done very well very often, is that the characters that you are supposed to be horrified for you don't really get attached to them because they suck. But in Berserk, which I would still consider to be a horror manga, you're attached to these characters, and that's also one thing that I've always thought Walking Dead did really well. Is you do get attached to the characters and horrible stuff happens to them, So,
at least in the seasons where they actually developed their characters instead of just, oh, we're going to have an episode dedicated just to this character and then they fucking die.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness! Then there's Negan. Fucking still love him. I think I do a pretty good impression of him.
Oh, Negan.
Little pig. Let me in. I never got. I didn't like playing him as him in Tekken though. He doesn't really have the style I like. So I just play Jaguar Men. Because King and Armor King are fucking awesome. Alright, anyway. So yeah, just a quick recap. Again, the 1990s anime, the movies, Berserk and the Banner of the Hawk. Read the manga though. Like take a couple days of your free time and just go through it. They go on sale on Comixology all the fucking time, but at some point I'm gonna have probably I'm gonna buy all the physical media of them. So,
yeah.
All right, Angry Green Boss wants to know, how would you write a romance? I'm in a story where it's an important part of the plot. Would you write it like Guts and Casca? The thing about romance in stories is that you have to. I hate to say this, but if you're gonna write a good romance in a story, you have to have fallen in love at least once in your life.
Yeah, I will agree with you there.
Yeah,
I will agree with you there.
You have to understand attraction. You have to understand intimacy. You have to understand the elements of how these things work and why people are attracted to one another and the games that we tend to play with one another. I can't really tell you how to write a romance because every single one that I end up writing is purely organic. I don't know how they even start. I just start writing them, and I put myself in the head of the character, and then when I'm in their head, I can see what they look for, what they would find attractive, why they would find that person attractive, what kind of personality are they. One example that I would have is there's characters in Project Lazarus. The lead character does have a romantic interest, but the girl who he has an interest for, it's one-sided at first. She flirts with him, but that's just because it's her personality. She's very flirtatious. She's very assertive as a woman, and as such, the way that she sort of dances around him is that she flirts with him, but she's not interested in doing the horizontal tango just yet. She wants, deep down, she wants to be a friend with somebody first before she's going to take that plunge. And you'll find out in her history that there's a reason for that. But you have to have been there yourself before you can really write it. Because you can tell when somebody writes a romance they've never really been in love before. Always forced. Looking at you, Dan Slott.
I think it's important to not just rush things. There's so many works that try to play off a romance as something that happens in like a couple of days, something that develops over like the course of a week. It doesn't always do that. In fact, very rarely does it do that. Like, you do not go from just meeting someone to saying I love you in a matter of days. Like, that
and
is,
if you do, you're insane.
That is like ridiculously fucking unusual. And normal people are going to be like, stop thinking with your dick.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what it is. It's really hard for me to write romance in that regard because I have to think of it on the timetable of this has to be nurtured and developed over the course of months at the very least. And if my story doesn't give me that much time to do it, then it's better to just cut that plot.
Yeah, exactly. Because the worst romances, oddly enough, are always in romance novels. If that's the goal from the outset, don't do it. In fact, I almost think that if you're going to write a story, you should never, ever plan what the story is. Just start writing. See what you come up with.
I very, very disagree with that.
Well,
I say it's always best to have a roadmap.
Well, I think if you focus too much on like if you micromanage yourself, you can cut yourself off at the knees. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because more often than not, you'll end up writing yourself into a corner.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's better to have like a path.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
have individual markers on where you need to get to, and then fill in the blanks
Yeah.
along the way.
But just start with your ideas and go from there.
Yeah,
Don't say, this person must have the romance. Maybe
yeah,
not. Maybe you can tell an interesting story without it. So, all
it's
right.
possible.
Yeah, we need to move on to politics.
Yeah.
Autist Whisper wants to
Oh,
know.
then not my stuff.
Yep. Autist Whisper wants to know thoughts on the study that dogs crap in alignment with the Earth's magnetic field. Alpha Incel wants to know opinion on question.
Enough light for me for today.
Yeah. Alpha Incel wants to know opinion on Times Meghan Markle on race fiasco. I think Lawrence Fox handles himself well. I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know anything about.
I literally don't care about the royal family. We kicked them out for a reason. Like I just don't care.
Actor Lawrence Fox taunts trolls after he was branded a white privileged male during Meghan Markle racism row on Question Time.
I
Um,
don't know, don't care.
he denied that she was forced out of the royal family, quote unquote, for being of mixed race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not fucking wrong.
No, she's
He's
just like
not. She's generally unlikable. That's the thing. Like she was even before um who was it? Harry or whoever and she announced their engagement, she was not very well liked. She was thought of as a bitch. I mean, people don't remember that for some reason. Like this was not Kate, Duchess Kate. She was generally likable. Everybody fell in love with her. Oh my god, that was like a Cinderella story. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, was like, oh Jesus Christ, you know, she's pussy whipping this dude. And so far, I don't think anyone who's made those allegations has been proven wrong. If anything, this quitting the monarchy thing kind of proves them right.
yeah, that's generally what I've seen heard too, is that like she's just an unlikable human being, which whatever.
Yeah,
I really don't care.
yeah. So
I just think
fuck
it's
it.
I think it's interesting that like they're apparently um pissed that like the royal funds are getting cut off from them. It's like, well, yeah, you're leaving the family. What the fuck do you expect? And then like they're wanting to go to Canada and mooch off of them, and then they're wanting to move to the United States and mooch off of us. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, where's your tea? I'm gonna throw it in the Boston Harbor. Fuckers. Anyway, monarchies are bullshit. Kale
Yeah,
Bach wants to
we
know.
told him to fuck off.
Yeah. What do you think of the argument that the Canaanites are the original people of Israel? Just seems like people trying to further the Jew claim. I don't even know where to start with that. I really don't. Where do we start with that?
Um, I have no idea. I don't fucking know either.
Yeah, it's not really. Not just From what we know of the Canaanites historically, and this is where I guess I would start, is that they were nomads anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like that was where they originally came from either. As far as yeah, so it's silly. There was a war, they lost. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Scarlet Writer's Geek Corner says, thoughts on where the political landscape will fall come 2024 if Trump is reelected. Well, it's going to depend purely on how the left continues to act. If they continue to be bonkers, they will continue to lose ground culturally.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing that I've noticed is that the left has completely and totally been unable to adapt to the digital age like the right has. Conservatives and libertarians in general are better with humor. They're better with memes. They're better with information handling. They're better with reporting. They're better with research. And all of it comes from the digital era. I think Andrew Breitbart is the one who kind of laid that foundation of where the future was going to be, and it was here. And people listened to him because he was right.
Mm-hmm.
The left in general just has no sense of humor. And beyond that, they have really bad ideas. And I think the interesting thing about it is that history's not on their side when they think that it is. I think that, again, I still see us starting to go more conservative leaning for the foreseeable future. But it really, like, the Democrats could end up turning things around depending on where they decide to go from here. The thing is, they don't have, at least to my knowledge, a young superstar sort of person they could push like a Barack Obama. That's a counter to a Donald Trump. But then again, we also have to see how popular or unpopular Donald Trump is by that time too. It's really hard to say. There's too many factors.
Well, I'll counter with this, and this is more of a soft counter. The only real superstar that comes close to Trump in terms of popularity and I guess notoriety on top of that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But she is decidedly not a Democrat. Her loyalty is not to the Democratic Party. It's to the Democratic Socialists. And this is another reason why I think the party is going to split within probably the next decade, if not, or 2 decades, if not sooner. I'll be a little generous here. Because Bernie Sanders is another, one that's exploded in popularity. And right now, the DNC is afraid of him, and they're trying to do him dirty again. I mean, it's kind of hard to blame him that he's, pushing the platform pretty far to the fucking left. But still, if you still have to honor democracy. Like, if that's what the voters want, then that's what they're going to have. Let them live with the consequences of it. But they're not going to do that, and I think in turn that's going to bite them in the ass, because what's the term? A realignment election, or political realignment, or something like that. We're due for one of those. I don't think the Democratic Party is going to live another 3-4 election cycles. I don't think it's going to survive, because you have way too many people pushing for more progressive politics, and the Democratic Party, like it or not, is kind of resistant to going full lefty. And when you've got an entire new generation of voters that's been indoctrinated into believing that communism good, socialism good, capitalism bad, equality bad, equity needed, all that bullshit, of course, they're not going to stand by and wait for the Democratic Party to catch up. They're going to go to the DSA and shit. And
yeah,
I will keep saying it.
They're going
to supplant them.
There's also going to be a generational confrontation. between
Mm-hmm.
between the
Yep.
millennials and the Zoomers,
Yep.
because
Absolutely.
the Zoomers are much more conservative than millennials are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
considerably more. It's crazy, and that's not going to change as time goes on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
generally how it trends is you're liberal when you're young, and then you become more conservative as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the thing about it is that if you got a generation that's starting conservative, yeah, that's not likely to change. The
Mm-hmm.
um the thing about the whole even millennials will probably start to drop off as time goes on and become more conservative themselves.
Mm,
The other
I
thing
don't
that I
know.
think hurts the left is again their pushing of more and more radical ideas culturally.
Mm-hmm.
I think transgenderism has actually very badly hurt them, um, culturally
I think
speaking.
so too.
You know,
Well,
pushing
they're
drag
looking
queens
for
and there's a lot of other things. You know
they're
the
looking for the new civil rights movement.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not working. You know,
No.
there's a point where you face a stark reality of you cannot genetically turn a man into a woman,
Mm-mm.
and no amount of plastic surgery is going to change that. Now, I don't mean to
Mm-mm.
be coarse or anything like that. I'm just speaking facts. And when you have people like Jessica Yaniv and things like that become these people that they promote, um, or drag queens and things like that even Ocasio Cortez is promoted. You know, you look at these sorts of things and you think like you shouldn't be like these people shouldn't be thinking about how woke Twitter thinks. Woke Twitter is not your
Mm-hmm.
majority of human
No.
beings on in the United States. You need to be thinking
No.
about how mom with two sons and two daughters is thinking. You need to be thinking about how
Mm-hmm.
dad is thinking about the idea
Exactly.
of a boy, biological boy, being in the same locker room as his daughter.
Exactly. I
Like,
mean, and even then, like, I think people are more willing to accept it as a mental illness that it is. I think they're more ready to do that, but the problem is it's not being communicated that way anymore. You've got the shit about, non-binary and genderqueer, and yes, you can choose whatever the hell gender you want, and that's just
if you're an adult and you're
bottom line
consenting, do whatever the fuck you
confusing.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing to the average person. I mean, they barely understand what the fuck cisgender is, and then you're telling them, oh well, gender is a spectrum. Like,
No.
it's easier to accept like a man wanting to be a woman because that's still within the binary, but it's not easy to accept shit like non-binary, gender fluid, gender queer. Like, it's too fucking difficult. Eventually they're just going to say, okay, so dyed hair and makeup on a dude who is also sporting a nose ring is a gender. Okay. That's how they'll
I don't even think
fucking
it's that.
understand
I
it,
think
because
that
it doesn't make any sense.
yeah, people look at that and they're like, "You're fucking crazy," is what they say.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't really buy into this.
No.
You know, it's flat out freak show stuff,
Yeah,
and
it is.
people are turning themselves into that. And look,
Yeah.
I'm not against. You know, I'm a metalhead. You know, I've been around some pretty fucking awkward and weird fucking people, man.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, there is stuff when you tell people that you must accept your reality. There's only one
Hmm.
reality, and we all live by its rules. So for you to sit there and act so fucking entitled, as if you can define how other people are going to act and react to you. People are always going to tell you, especially Americans, to fuck off. You know,
Hmm.
the difference, and this is something that friends of mine who don't live here in the States have said about Americans is like, you guys are very brash compared to other countries. You will say the things that other countries are too scared to say because they think that, again, it's politically incorrect or it's impolite or what have you. Well, that's one thing that I think is part of the reason why America leads the world. is because we're willing to say the things that need to be said. We're willing to do the things that need to be done. You know, one thing that needs to be done in this day and age is to tell people like this, it's like, no, you're not well. And you are wanting, you know, you're a boy, you have a penis, you know, and you want to be in a dressing room where my daughter will be unclothed. I'm going, you know, like, me personally, if I was, you know, and this is part of the reason why I don't have kids, because I know I would do this, is I would walk into the principal's office and I would say, if you expect this to happen, I'm going to come to school every day and stand outside with a loaded shotgun. So that kid doesn't come anywhere close to my daughter, because this is unacceptable. You know? Like, this is ridiculous. This is, you know, you will not allow this to happen. And I know that I'm not the only person who thinks that. I wouldn't become, and even like my niece and nephew, I would probably do that. You know, it's like, you do not get to do this to my flesh and blood. You know, well, not literally my flesh and blood, but still, they're my nieces and nephews, and I love them. You know, I don't want that sort of a future for them. And yeah, it's not. This is what the left is pushing, and they have found the line that was too far. You know, and not to mention, when it comes to civil rights, aside from LGBT legalization, where have they even led on the civil rights on? They weren't the ones who voted out Jim Crow. That was the Republicans. They weren't the ones who voted out slavery. That was the Republicans. You know, like, it's not even comparable. So I don't even know what the fuck they're thinking. You know, it's absolutely silly. They don't have any good ideas. They just don't. I don't think classically that they have. You know, and they have no John F. Kennedy in that bunch. They just don't. You know? They only have people that will continue to sink things, and people don't want to be sunk. I think that Barack Obama might be the straw that broke the camel's back, because he was accepted simply on the merit of being the first black president, but he had some of the worst ideas. And that's what people look back at him and see, and they look at the Democrats and be like, you guys haven't gone past this. You know, and the direction you want to go towards is not the direction that America wants. You know? Mm-hmm. All right. Last question. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, why do so many communists or socialists seem to deny the idea of upward economic mobility? Is there a tangible reason for this determinist thinking on economics? It's an ignorance of facts. I mean, generally speaking, within 2 or 3 generations of a family, there is upwards mobility from poverty to riches. You know, and you see that story a lot of times with millionaires, is that they'll tell you, yeah, I grew up poor, and we had to hustle for everything that we got. We didn't have a whole lot of opportunities. And then I got an opportunity, and I took it, and I ran with it, and I became a millionaire. You know, that's just the story over and over and over again, you know? And they seem to think that because that poor period of time existed in the first place, that there's a problem with the system. No, that's not true. Not to mention, in this day and age, less people live in poverty than ever. You know, the market has done wonders, but they don't like that idea. Basically, if there's one, their logic is, if there's one person suffering, then everything is wrong.
Yeah, or rather, if one person has to suffer, then everyone should. You know, an injury to one is an injury to all. Yeah. If one person is poor, everybody should be poor. This whole idea that, you know, billionaires and even in some cases millionaires are like a policy failure is ridiculous. It subverts everything that we hold dear about individualism. I mean, people are allowed to achieve. They're allowed to make something of themselves, to strive to do better, as opposed to doing the bare minimum and getting the same paycheck as everybody else, which is exactly what would happen in a communist or socialist system. There is no incentive to achieve or advance even. I mean, Christ's sake, how many straight up scientific advancements have come as a result of capitalism? Your your desktop computers, your fucking smartphones. That shit did not just get advanced by people on a government payroll. It doesn't happen like that. So no, I believe that promoting individual achievement is way better, and acknowledging that people can do better economically. You know, if you even want to go into shit, the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I generally have a problem with even saying, like, every billionaire is a policy failure. That's bullshit.
It is.
Like,
It is, to be certain.
Like, people, they tend to act like workers are being exploited. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that the guy who works for a billionaire, and I will speak as somebody who works for one during my day job, you're telling me that I'm exploited even though I make middle class wages, have a car and a home. Like, fuck off. Like, are you serious? So, like, I'm not being exploited at all. I'm being paid for the labor that I'm trained for, and that labor has a dollar value attached to it, as all labor does. And this is generally an issue that I have. Is like, things have value. Some things have more value than others. Some things have less. Some things, and in my opinion, it is a general ignorance of markets, and generally this idea that they can create a utopia that force these ideas. And the fact of the matter is you will never create heaven on earth. The road to utopia is always paved with blood, and you never get there.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, it is okay to sell your services, to sell your talents. I mean, that's what you do as a freelancer, and no one has any issue with it.
Yeah.
So and that's really what you're doing in every job. You are saying, okay, I'm an expert in this, or at least I am proficient in this. I will do this for you in exchange for money. Very, very simple. You can't really get much more simple than that. I mean, I know I'm giving economics 101 lessons to the choir here, but I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's so simple, but it's either a refusal to get it, or they just are genuinely that stupid.
Yeah, I honestly think it is stupidity. Stupidity or corruption. One or the other. You know, you like the YouTube people that you see that promote communism, they're stupid. They're idiots.
Yeah.
The people who are politicians who promote it, they want power. They're corrupt. You know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was doing another one of these town hall things with Ta-Nehisi Coates, which should tell you everything. And she basically said, billionaires have power. And then she slipped, if I recall correctly. She said, I want that power. I mean, we want that power, the people. It's like, yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of it is driven by envy as well. You know, you have something that I don't. I want it. It's unfair because I don't have it. It's a child throwing a tantrum at the end of the day. You got more ice cream than I did. That's not fair. I want it.
Yep. Exactly.
Bigger paycheck is a reward.
All right. Well, folks, before we take off, just to let you know, there probably won't be a podcast this weekend. There will probably just be a me solo show. Hatman is going to be doing birthday stuff with his lady. So that's what will probably be going on with him. I will still make time to do something on this channel. We'll sit down, we'll do a long entertainment stream for a couple hours, and I'm just going to review a bunch of stuff, and then I'll talk about the issues solo, which is always fun times. And of course, still do donation goals if you guys want me to watch anime cringe. I will record it just in case we get another copyright claim like we did with the last podcast, which is why people haven't been able to watch it. I'm sorry I didn't record it, and YouTube does not let you pull it and re-download it whenever there's a claim on it, which is bullshit. I think that's silly. But needless to say, though, the appeals are in. If the people who make the strike don't respond to them within 30 days, which I don't think they have yet, then the claims disappear and we get access to it again. So, fun times all around. All right. Hatman, any final words?
Yeah. Be aware of things that are going on with your animals. I kind of lost my birthday because girlfriend's cat disappeared, and turns out that he had an abscessed tooth and was dehydrated. So be very aware and watch your animals, because you want to make sure that you get them help when they need help.
Exactly.
He's doing better, by the way, in case I've made anyone very, very concerned. He just had surgery today, so he's doing better.
Yes. Alrighty, folks. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Until then, my name is Micah Curtis.
I'm Alex Baldwin, the belated birthday hat man.
Exactly. Dave's Volt.
Dave's Volt.